Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tantra's Mantra where we go behind and beyond the tech news headlines. I am Prakash Sangam, your host and founder of Tantra Analyst. I am back again with another episode. Today we will talk about 3GPP, the global organization that develops cellular specifications and standards. 3GPP, as many might know, stands for Third Generation Partnership Project. It was started more than 2 decades ago to develop a harmonized global 3G specifications and went on to develop 4G, 5G, and now working on 6G as well. And of course, all the steps in between. But surprisingly, it still kept 3G in its name. In spite of its long history and pioneering work, many people outside the cellular industry really ever heard about 3GPP, but it only come to foray when 5G became really popular. I am a full 3GPP member and attend most of its plenaries and other meetings, and also have written quite a bit about its structure, inner workings, and so on. In fact, I have a couple of ongoing article series on the subject. I'll include links to them in the description of the podcast, so please remember to check them out. But we are here today to talk about an exciting change happening in 3GPP's leadership team. 3GPP's largest group called RAN Technical Specifications Group or RAN-TSG recently elected a new chair, and that is Dr. Wanshi Chen, Senior Director of Technology at Qualcomm. He will be starting in his new position on June 14th, the day on which the next RAN plenary will convene. We are so fortunate to have Dr. Wanshi with us today to discuss the whole slew of issues related to 5G, standardization, his vision for 3GPP, and so on. Wanshi, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Wanshi Chen. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Very nice. We have known each other for a long time, Wanshi, right? I think since early 2000s or so. We
Right.
both were working for Ericsson at that time, commercializing 3G,
That's right.
and industry has come a long way since then.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Wanshi, so you are a veteran of standardization. Could you please briefly explain your background, what you do at Qualcomm, and most importantly, tell us your journey at 3GPP?
Yes, I joined Qualcomm in May 2006. Now it's about 15 years. From day one, I joined Qualcomm. I was involved in 4G LTE research. And then starting from March 2008, I started to attend 3GPP meetings. First start with the Run 1. Run 1, as you may know, is the largest working group in 3GPP, focused on physical layer certification work. And then starting from August 2013, I was elected as the vice chair in round one, serving around for 4 years. And then in August 2017, I was elected as round one chair until serving for another 4 years until May this year. And in March, I was elected round plenary chair, continue serving 3GP. So really, my work has been kind of focused on the R&D part and also to provide services to 3GPP.
Very well. You've been a through and through 3GPP guy then, right?
Yes, for 14, 13 years at least.
So, what is the one aspect of 3GPP that you're most fascinated by or that you cherish?
That's a very good question. I think from day one when I joined 3PP, I was really amazed by the cooperation among different companies. I can tell you that in round one, when I first joined in March 2008, we only had about 200 people more or less in round one, but now we have around 500, 600 people in round one in a single meeting. And the number of companies who are involved in the standardization process also increased a lot. But even with that, for any design, any topic we have in round one, I think also in round plenary, there are always very contentious discussions, very different views. But through careful collaboration, we can always find some consensus. And 3PP is consensus driven. This is sometimes I see it's more like magical, but it always happens.
It's really interesting and surprising at the same time, right? I mean,
Yes.
companies who fight really hard, against each other in the marketplace when they come to standardization, They have to sit together, talk through, and then come to a consensus, not just majority, a consensus to make the standards and specifications happen. I think, yeah, I agree. It's a very interesting part of the organization.
Exactly.
So how will your first day as the RAN-TSG chair look like?
Well, I got elected in March and was officially appointed at the end of April. I was still chairing round one in May, but even during the chairing, I had to get a lot of preparation for the June plenary. And as you know, we're also going to have another run level workshop. It's called Run Resetting Workshop, which is scheduled to start on June 28th for a week. So as a new elected chair, I have to be prepared and to really get the agenda ready for both the regular round planner meeting and the workshop, and also to really come with a good set of guidelines for both meetings. The guideline including the details, thoughts on how things are managed, all the kind of things. Yeah, it's been a very busy days for me to get things prepared. I'm looking forward for the round plenary in more or less 1 week from now.
Yeah, especially putting two hats at the same time, and both of these are the largest groups within 3GPP, and very intense discussions happen on both the forums. So that must be very tiring.
Exactly.
So how are the online meetings working out? It's almost more than a year now since these started. I'm assuming everybody, just like me, are very eager to get back to face meetings.
Yes, I mean it's been challenging for sure. We start to have these electronic meetings from early last year. As a matter of fact, we cancel all the meetings in the year 2020 and also this year. We're still deciding whether to hold the physical meetings or e-meetings for the December round plenary. But other than that, everything else already been decided to go electronically. It's a learning process. I mean, from if you compare e-meetings versus physical meetings, that certainly we can never compare with the efficiency of physical meetings. Being a technical group, as you can imagine, it involves a lot of discussions, and this discussion in many cases will require a very good interpersonal interactions. Sometimes it just takes effort to write down even some formulas to write a few illustrations, and things can be resolved very quickly. But for e-meeting, we're lacking of this kind of interactions. But we've been learning along the way, try to come with a lot of guidelines to really improve the efficiency of the e-meetings. For example, how to arrange the conference calls, because we had to try to accommodate, if not all, at least the majority of the delegates in terms of arrange working hours to make sure that we don't overstress the delegates, and also to arrange the email thread discussion to hopefully strike a good balance between load and of course the necessary relaxation time for delegates. We also set up a lot of rules for different during different time period. We even have something called inactive period, during which we do not allow any kind of email discussions or of course conference calls, to try to give delegates a good balance between work and life. Yeah, overall, I think we have been moving along quite well considering the challenge we are facing. Of course, never going to be comparable with physical meetings, but I'm still confident that with all this good collaboration, we're still making very good progress so far.
Yeah, fingers crossed for this December face-to-face meetings. So, as a chair, you will have opportunity to shape the future and guide the technology evolution at 3GPP, right? So what is your vision for 3GPP during your tenure, and what are your priorities, and so on? So, I should add here, the official tenure is 2 years, but typically, officers serve two terms, so total of say 4 years. And what are you thinking in terms of prioritization and things that you want to accomplish during that time?
Yeah, thank you for the good question. And we are, as you know, we already had two releases so far for 5G. The first release, release 15, and the second release, release 16. Now we're working on release 17, the third release. We are now at this point in time, we plan to, I mentioned the workshop earlier, plan to work on, to see how the projects for release 18 will look like. In a way, now we're kind of entering a new phase of 5G. As a matter of fact, the PCG is approved for the usage of 5G Advanced for starting from release 18. So it's more like a second phase of 5G. This is the point we need to look at to further enhance 5G for sure, because 5G we have been come with a very good progress so far. We do still see 5G has many things to improve and many things we can evolve. It's still the foundation for us to work on for the next few years. At the same time, it's also an interesting point that we need to work to see how we can manage projects, at least have some discussion to see not only to aim for some immediate commercial deployments, and also aim for something a little bit longer term to see how we could lay a good foundation even for future evolutions, particularly for 6G. Although we're not a group purely on research with everything we do with commercial deployment in mind, but at the same time, we're also trying to see how we could evolve as standard body to address the commercial needs, not just for short term, maybe for also a little bit longer term. So this is a very critical phase. Of course, my term will be 2 years. For the first time, if I got reelected 2 years from now, it's gonna be 4 years. At the end of my term, that's probably gonna be the time that we could see some initial discussions in 6G. So in a way, my term now is very important. We're entering a very important phase to connect 5G and 6G somehow.
Yeah, I mean, during your tenure, you'll see, global expansion of 5G and setting the foundation for 6G, right? So, yeah, indeed, it's very crucial time. And it's also crucial time because 5G is looking beyond, the normal smartphone and broadband markets to industry verticals and so on.
Right.
So, how has that progress been? How has the working has been? How are you guys working with the industry verticals? They're not typically 3GPP members and so on. So how is that happening, and how do you foresee that's happening in the future?
Indeed, yeah. I mean, expansion to beyond EMBB is always something important for 3PP for 5G starting from day one. As you may recall, during the first workshop of 5G, this was in September 2015. We already talked about three pillars of the user cases: EMBB, ULRC, and MMTC. We already built a good framework for us to incorporate any change we may have
Hmm.
for future releases starting from release 15. And starting from release 16, we already have a good expansion of projects into vertical domains. V2X, unlicensed spectrum, all the kind of things. And then release 17, this got even further accelerated. Now, coming to release 18, we still believe that this expansion to verticals will continue. Indeed, during this release 18 workshop, that's going to be organized from June 28th to July 2nd, we have the agenda organized into three different branches. The first branch is called EMBB Evolution. The second one is called non-EMBB evolution. And then we have another one called cross functionalities. This is more a new area which can benefit both EMBB and non-EMBB. So you can see we try to strike a good balance between these traditional EMBB driven projects versus some non-EMBB projects, and also try to aim for a little bit longer term for new areas.
Okay, very well. So yeah, I'll be attending that workshop. Should be very interesting.
Right.
So, in terms of interfacing with the participants on the industrial vertical side, there's 5G and others. So, how do you see that interaction going to evolve and progress? Because you have to develop technologies that verticals really need and want and ready to adopt and commercialize, right? So, they have some representatives into
Right.
3GPP now, right, to channel in their needs and requirements.
We're working with them very closely. I mean, we have
Hmm.
official channel. This the liaisons that we exchange with different forums, different bodies. At the same time, we definitely in 3B also welcome the delegate from their side to come to 3B. As a matter of fact, is this I think that this we do see a very good increase of such delegation from vertical domain industries, which is a very good thing. At the same time, we also, at the chair level, we also, at least personally, I've been attending a few calls that are organized, try to share my views and try to also help them understand better how 3B works. Because eventually, from 3B perspective, we are a very open standard body, and it's also 5G's goal to try to accommodate not just traditional EMBB services, but also any kind of service we can think of. So it's all important for us to really work very closely to make sure we can address various use cases and requirements.
Very nice. And then now coming back to this release 17 and 18. Release 17, from a standardization perspective, a lot of work is already being done, right?
Right.
So that is being standardized towards the end of this year, early next year.
Release 17, right now, the schedule for release 17 is that we'll try to finish release 17 in run 1, the physical layer, by December this year.
Mm-hmm,
And then run
mm-hmm,
2, run 3, run 4, this is the up layers and performance. This naturally have a 3 month staggering compared with run 1. We're still aiming
mm-hmm.
for these completion dates. Of course, because of the cancellation of physical meetings, we'll also try to examine the situation very carefully to see whether we need to step in terms of checking the progress to see when a kind of downsizing necessary, because eventually we have to look at the group to make sure we can deliver on time. At the same time, if something really showing some signs of, let's say, risk of being completed, we'll try to step into see how we can address that.
Okay. So basically, the whole standard finalized by first quarter of 2022, then release 17.
Yes, the idea to have all the functional work done by March from run to run 3, run 4 perspective. Run of course December, and then in June next year there'll be so-called SN.1 freeze.
Yeah, yes, and autumn phase is in June. Okay,
Yes.
very well. So now moving to release 18. So the name 5G Advance is kind of official now with PCG agreeing to it and endorsing it.
Yes, very happy to report that this was first approved by PCG. And of course, 3PP has to do the due diligence to check out whether there's some other external usage or not to make sure there's no conflict. Very happy to
Mm-hmm.
report that that check process is already also done. Now we're already approved to use such terminology. I also just a couple of days ago, I think maybe yesterday, I already saw the new logo. I'm not sure you had a chance to see that yet or not. I already had a first look. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it. I should go check it out.
It's similar to the 5G with these green bars, and then with the 5G advanced.
Okay, perfect. So it's basically following the footsteps of LTE. You had LTE, and then
Right,
releases after that were LTE
right.
Advanced. So same thing. So then looking at 6G, for example, so 5G Advanced will be for a couple of releases, like maybe 19, and then release 20 is 6G then, or hard to say at this point.
That's a good question. I mean, this is too early to tell at this point. I do see that for sure we're gonna have a focus on 5G advanced in the next release. Even for 19, I'm still expecting to see 5G advanced. When CG gonna start to come to 3PP in terms of discussion, I'm expecting probably starting from the second half of the decade, maybe starting from sometime in 2025 to some early discussion. Requirements, this usual thing to have kind of get prepared for 6G.
Okay.
But again, this is too early to tell. This is also depends on the interaction with many other standard bodies outside the 3PP.
Okay. You mentioned about this release 18 workshop. So coming out of the workshop, we should have some idea on what kind of enhancements industry might see from enhanced broadband and non-enhanced broadband, primarily verticals and so on. What kind of enhancements we are talking about? Is it just higher speeds, lower latency, or what can we expect at a very high level from release 18?
Well, right now the contribution deadline is next Monday, but at least I did hear a lot of discussion about for example, on the EMBB side, some additional XR work in the enhanced positioning, Starlink. Starlink, of course, could also belong to non-EMBB side.
Uh-huh.
Power saving, MIMO, all these advanced enhancements. On the non-EMBB side,
Correct.
I mentioned Starlink, which could be in many forms. You also have new enhancement on this NTN, especially non-terrestrial networks, URLC IoT, or
Uh-huh.
many other things that I think people have different things in mind, even broadcast, all the kind of things.
Correct.
Now, on the new areas, I heard something like full duplex. which is, in the traditional TDD system, you have the half duplex operation, which could also be converted to full duplex to better utilize the spectrum and reduce
Uh-huh.
latency of the different benefits. AI machine learning is also being proposed by many companies. Green network is another example. So there's many things I think different company have in mind. I'd be interested to see how we could converge to the final, not the final per se, but at least to have a more focused discussion for next steps after the workshop.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff happening then. So basically, it'll be perfecting the things that were introduced in maybe 16 and 17 and looking at some, brand new ideas. Full duplex
Right,
seems, really interesting, right? It's been always a holy grail that you use the same spectrum for both uplink and downlink with interference cancellation and so on. So that will be interesting to look at. Yeah,
right,
that kind of, almost double the capacity of the network.
yes.
Any early indications of what 6G might look like, or you think it's very, very early to even think about it?
For 6G, of course, outside CGBP, I did hear a lot of discussion here and there, but at the 3G level,
Mhm.
it's too early. I still believe 6G now
Okay.
is still more or less at the research stage. It's still too early to tell how it's
Yeah.
gonna eventually, develop in terms of a commercial like general standard. It's still too early. Yeah, at 3G level, it's too early.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. People are kind of getting tired of keep talking about 5G, so they need new things. So a lot of them are thinking 6G is the new thing, but 5G advance is kind of a interesting interim. So hopefully the focus will be more on 5G advance rather than 6G on anything that is not in today's 5G, right?
Right. I mean, I think as a whole, I think all three members have the 5G has been, developing the field releases, and now we're already seeing quite good commercial deployments. I think it's important to continue evolving 5G. We still have a lot of things that we can improve, and to make sure that 5G is a very successful generation of standards.
Okay, it's very interesting. Now moving on away from these technologies on some of the logistics and the politics and geopolitics that might or might not be affecting 3GPP. So one of the things I had heard some time back was this issue of contribution packing, wherein some companies are trying to artificially boost their numbers by introducing frivolous contributions and so on. Is that still a issue, or that has been addressed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do not believe it's an issue at this point in time. And to
Okay.
understand that whenever I have some new topics, even for some existing topics, all company kind of excited to contribute. And sometimes they
Mhm.
without a good regulation of how many contributions they never contribute, maybe especially even for a particular agenda, maybe too excessive from a single company. This just also from management perspective, it causes a lot of issues because eventually we have to work as a group to try to have the opportunity for everybody to review the input from different companies to discuss a group. If you have, too many contributions, it's also making the review process more difficult. We have taken quite some measures in the past. I think it worked pretty well at this point.
Okay, that's glad to hear. Otherwise, I mean, I had heard of course, probably it is an exaggeration, but people even submitting contributions for typographical errors, grammatical errors, and so on. And the geopolitical situation. I mean, it's always evolving and changing.
Right.
How has that affected the overall working of 3GPP itself? And has that affected the productivity and efficiency of 3GPP in any way? And have you put good guidelines, if you will, for how to work on these things so that it doesn't affect any changes which may or may not come later? Any views on that?
At this point in time, we don't have any restriction per se,
Uh-huh.
but it can openly engage in, these offline, online discussions as long as it's related to 3PP. We used to have some restrictions, but even during that
Uh-huh.
time, we are working very hard as a group to see how to manage this, try to mitigate any potential impact. For example, we try to organize all the offline discussion in an open manner to pre-announce this offline session to a good summary what's been discussed. Try to to make sure we can comply with the regulations at the same time to minimize any potential impact. CPU overall is very resilient. I think everybody has the same goal to work on things to make sure we can deliver as a group for commercial successful release. So in that sense, I personally definitely hope we don't have any restriction in the future. You know, but we're working very hard to mitigate any kind of potential impact. Because eventually, this is a technical standard body. This technical driven is it should be the best and should be the goal for everyone.
Okay, perfect. Very well. And the related topic is this talk about standard forks, wherein different regions trying to make their own versions of the standards and specifications. Is that still a threat? Are there any efforts on to either stop it or something like that? For example, will 5G Advanced or 6G be a single global standard, or there'll be multiple versions of it and so on?
I think this one particular thing I think everybody agrees that we had the 4G LTE as a successful generation standard. Now have 5G being very successful. One primary reason, in my opinion, is that is a global standard. It's very open. It have members from all over the world participating in the standard and try to contribute and try to use this standard for their commercial deployments. I think this is foundation for being successful. I do believe this is still the one that we should have moving forward. Is there any risk? I did hear some discussions and some issues being raised, but overall, I believe when we work together as a group, we can always resolve these kind of potential issues and still have the same goal, trying to still evolve as a single open global standard to be able to accommodate the request and the needs from a company all over the world.
Exactly right. When you look at how fractured 2G and 3G were, and compared to that, how successful 4G was because it was single standard compared to five or six different flavors and at least three dominant ones in 3G. I think there is a very good history lesson for everybody to take from, right?
Exactly.
If it is one standard across the globe, then the success is kind of
Right.
ensured. If it is not, then it's going to be really hard, especially now where everything is global, the ecosystem is global, the supply chain is global,
Right.
and so on, right?
Right.
And hopefully it'll be so that there'll be one global standard that everybody can rely on.
Right.
So I mean, as we talked about, we sit here today just few days before the next plenary. What do you think is your biggest challenge and biggest opportunity during your tenure?
Well, as we already discussed earlier, this we're at a point now. It's kind of start of the second phase of 5G. We still need to solidly improve what we have on 5G to try to improve on EMBB, non-EMBB aspects, and try to also lay a good foundation for 6G. You also mentioned some other political impact, some interaction with different standard bodies. You can see it as a change, but I think it's also opportunity for us to really stay strong, to continue evolving as a single global standard. I do believe that with good management, with very engaging discussion and cooperation, I believe we can still continue with our successful path.
All right. I think that's great way to end the discussion. We covered a lot of ground. Any closing comments from your side?
Thank you so much, Parker, for the opportunity. We have known each other for a long time. I think it's really been a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to some other opportunities. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Once again, congratulations on your election, and thank you very much for coming over and sharing your views. I'm sure there will be many more opportunities for us to talk on this show. As release 17 rolls over, release 18 5G Advance comes into foray, and so on. Hope to see you back on the show again. Best of luck.
Thank you so much, Prakash.
All right, folks, that's all we have for you now today. I hope you found this discussion to be informative and useful. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down there on whatever platform you're listening this on. Again, I'll be back very soon with another episode, putting light on another interesting subject. Bye bye for now.